Hi everyone, I'm Swati from Indiahikes and you're watching Trek with Swati. If you don't know about it, we've recently started a new series of podcasts called Trek Talks, where we bring you intriguing stories and insights from the trekking world. So today I'm going to be diving right into the topic because we're discussing something that has been bothering all of us a lot of late. And I'm talking about how mindlessly people are trekking these days. I know it sounds a little bit harsh when I say it something like that, but this is a harsh reality that we are facing in the mountains when we are trekking across the year in any region of our country. So in today's video, I'm going to be having a conversation on this topic. So to discuss this, I have with us a very familiar guest, the founder and CEO of Indiahikes, Arjun Majumdar. There's a reason I call him for this particular topic, because Arjun here has been trekking for over 35 years, almost 40 years if I have to actually ask him, because he's been trekking since he was 8. And he started Indiahikes around 15 years ago with this particular thought that he wanted trekking to be done a certain way. He always believed that there is a right way of trekking and there's a wrong way of trekking. So he has a lot of thoughts that have shaped trekking in India right now, but a lot of it may be going astray, and that is what I'll be talking to him about today. So thank you, Arjun, for joining us.
Thank you, Swati. After a long time, I am on your show.
Yeah, seriously, it's been almost a year, 2 years.
Maybe more.
Yeah. So this whole idea of mindful trekking, it seems quite vague. It seems very subjective that you think mindful trekking is something, I think mindful trekking is something. So what actually do you constitute as mindful trekking?
Yeah, I agree with you. Mindful trekking can sound like a very, like a nice, yoga Guruji ka ashram ka mindfulness and things like that. So actually, it is not about mindful or mindless trekking. That's the outcome of it. What is important is you follow a certain code of trekking, a certain spirit of trekking. You follow the spirits of trekking, everything is taken care of now. No one has to be worried about anything. And they're very simple. You just have to follow it. And that's it.
Can you take us through it? What exactly would you call the right spirit of trekking?
I have put down about 6 of those points. And if you follow those 6 of those points of the right spirit of trekking, I think trekking in our country can be done for the next few centuries. Absolutely nothing to worry about. So I'll start with the first one. So the first principle or spirit of trekking that I would like everyone to follow is you must be ready for an adventure anytime. You must be prepared for situations which are not in your control. And there will be a lot of situations which are not even in the organizer's control. Then what do you do? How do you react? And this is what I mean by saying up for an adventure is not trekking. It's up for situations which are not in your control or not even in the organizer's control. It happened recently on a Hamta Pass day. One of our camps got washed out by a flash flood. It wasn't raining, there was a flash flood. It just got wiped out. What do you do? Are you ready to go to from camp A to camp B and be ready to come back to camp A again? Which means you're going to be trekking for 10 kilometers and further 10 kilometers you need to trek again. That is called being ready for an adventure. Knowing that I reached camp only at 4 in the evening, I'm tired and hungry and I need food and I need rest, but now I don't find my camp in front of me, can I come back? That's being ready for an adventure. If you're mentally ready for such eventualities, then you follow the right spirit of trekking.
I think the crux of it, I'm going to take one line from what you just said. You said it very beautifully. It's about how you react, because the trekking world throws a lot of things at you, and how you react to it shows whether you're up for an adventure or not.
And that's the first spirit of trekking you need to keep in mind, is that I'm ready for an adventure and I'm ready for all the ups and downs which the trek is going to give me, and I'm going to do it with a smile on my face and not grumble about it or panic about it.
It's a beautiful point. I think we take it for granted, but it makes a very big difference. So take us through your next point.
The next code of conduct or the spirit of trekking that I would like everyone to follow is you must make every effort to blend in with nature. Now you must understand that people travel all over the world to witness nature in its purest form. That is on a trek. And that's why you trek. You cannot disturb this. So you cannot disturb this with many things. First of all, you cannot disturb this with your behavior. You have to be extremely mindful about how you are trekking, especially the noise that you create. What is the volume or amount of noise that you create? Are you going there to chatter all the time? Are you going there to play antakshari and create a big noise? Are you going there to disturb the tranquility of nature that we find there? Because this is a disease that is increasing in our country, which bothers me to a very great extent. I shared you that story about one person, and we were walking on the ridge and he was shouting out the name of another trekker who was a little behind. No, you cannot do that because you have just allowed a flurry of Himalayan birds to fly out somewhere else. You have missed the opportunity of seeing the birds, and two, the birds are now getting very confused because that's not their natural habitat. And my another peeve is when you get to camp, you are extremely noisy. When you get to camp, somebody is trying to read a book in one corner, they cannot. So now they have to go far away. Somebody is trying to have a quiet rest, they cannot because you are loudly talking, you are loudly laughing, you are playing music, you are sometimes singing songs. All that is okay, but there must be a moderation to it.
I think the idea is to trek so that the forest doesn't know you're in there.
Yes, and you have told the right words in one line. If people know you are trekking, then you're not trekking mindfully. You must be as silent as a cat.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And you must talk in low tones, very, very low tones. And that's mindful trekking, and that was the second point I wanted to make, that you blend in with nature and not try to make nature blend in with you. That's stupidity.
Yeah, that's very true. So we've covered 2 points: to be up for an adventure, to blend in with nature. What is the next point?
The next spirit of trekking, or the next code of conduct that you need to keep with yourself is you need to protect the environment. There are a lot of points here. You need to protect the environment, but one of the things which people are not very aware of is that when they go on a trek, somehow it's the visualization from the West or whatever it is, that I need a bonfire.
Yeah.
I need to light a fire using the woods which are available, maybe dead wood, but I need to light a bonfire. I want to keep warm. And I want to tell you that every act of yours that you do that, lighting a bonfire, is witnessed by the forest, by the animals, and by your fellow trekkers. And the danger is that if you light a bonfire, you are using up the dead wood which belongs to the forest. People think dead wood means it's dead. It has of no use. I want to tell you, it's the dead woods which regenerates the forest. It's the dead wood which makes the forest alive, which creates the future forests. Now, if you're not going to allow dead wood to be there, then there is going to be nothing left in the forest, in that spot that you're talking about. How are you going to protect the environment? We need to minimize the amount of comforts we take on a trek. There is nothing wrong in sitting on a grass or on a stone. You don't need a chair to sit in the mountains. You don't need a table or something to dine there. You have your cutlery, you can eat out of it. You're blending in with the nature, you're helping to protect the nature. But a lot of organizers think that I am giving a lot of service to my clients by bringing in tables and chairs and music and whatever they do to show service, but what they are doing is a huge disservice to the environment by not protecting it, by taking things that don't belong to the world of trekking and in the guise of comfort and service. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that just being minimal in the mountains actually protects the environment.
Exactly. That's the spirit of trekking. I need to be minimal. I don't need to carry these things. Yes, I understand if you're a handicapped person, all of those things I can understand. But not when you're a perfectly able person. You don't need a table and a chair to sit. And that's why you need to connect with nature. You need to feel the earth. You need to sit down on the ground and feel the earth. That's where the whole connect with nature happens. And you want to avoid that in the name of comfort.
Very true. So, what would you say is your next spirit of trekking?
The next code of conduct, which people need to keep in mind, or the next spirit of trekking, is that we must learn how to be self-sufficient.
Okay, explain.
And people are not self-sufficient at all. And I'll explain that. Do you remember you and I, we went on a trek to Gidara Bukyal? Right? Do you remember that we hit the highest camp at around 11,500 feet, and we realized that the water source that was there on a map and from a research had dried up. It was in November. And it had dried up. So what did we do? We melted snow that was on the flanks. We melted snow, we were on the flanks, and we took time. It did take time, melting snow does take time, but we had water. We drank and we were on our way the next day. It indicated a self-sufficient mindset. Most trekkers, I find, are not very self-sufficient, even in the way they pack. They're constantly packing their backpack with lots of things which they think they will need. In our country and in some similar economic country, we have this tremendous luxury of getting things done by others. And that's not the right spirit of trekking at all. So we want people to carry our bags, either people or animal. We want people to wash our dishes.
Tell me about it, yeah.
Why do we want somebody else to wash our dishes? Don't you think that person feels cold? Just because you're from a higher economy and you can pay that person, should you make that person clean your utensils in minus temperatures? One person, that is you are finding it difficult to wash one of your dishes. How is it okay that you can ask another human being to wash 25 of dishes in a group?
4 times a day.
4 times a day. Just because you can afford to pay him. And as a citizen of the country or of the world, don't you have a moral obligation that you need to lift this person from washing dishes to doing something better in life? Where is your moral obligation towards the planet and towards society? Why is it that every time there's a discomfort, you want to pay out of it? And that is not being self-sufficient at all. Trekking teaches us to be self-sufficient, wherein you want to buy out being self-sufficient. So you must learn how to be self-sufficient and minimum sufficient. And with a sense of minimalism. And learning the techniques of how you can trek efficiently.
Thanks for that. I think what you've been trying to share is a lot of how to be an ideal trekker. And from what you've been saying, I notice that it is not so difficult. But there are 2 more points. I don't know if those will make it difficult. So can you take us through your next point of the spirit of trekking?
The 5th point. I think I've covered 4 and this would be the 5th. The 5th code of conduct or the spirit of trekking that you need to follow is being supportive of each other. Again, I feel many trekkers don't understand this aspect of it, being supportive of each other. because they're so concerned with what is going on in their own trek, they forget to become supportive of others. It's always constantly being supportive to each other. If somebody is slowing down, lending a hand. If somebody is, feeling tired, being with that person for a stretch of the trek. Constantly being supportive, constantly sacrificing yourself for the goodness of others. I'll give an example, okay? I remember on the same Gidara Bugyal trek that you and I were on, Sandhya was also with us, our co-founder was also with us, and I don't know whether you know this. So there was this point when we were at one of the highest points, and I was carrying a lot of load, and I was tiring out. But I didn't want you all to carry more load than what you all are already doing, so I was carrying it out, but I was tiring out. Sandhya observed this. She didn't tell me anything, she didn't tell you anything. But at one spot where I put down my backpack and I was just resting and taking in the views, I saw her coming up to my backpack, opening my backpack, taking out one of my jackets, which is a heavier jacket, and putting it in her own backpack. This is being supportive. Because the moment she did that, my backpack felt a lot lighter. And rest of the trek, immediately my speed picked up. Immediately I felt a lot more comfortable. But where it impacted me is it impacted me in my heart. That here was a person who sacrificed herself for my benefit. So now what happens is, I always want to do a trek with such a person. That is the benefit that you get. That you want to have such team members who are there to support you.
I think the whole reason behind why this t-shirt says High Altitude Trek Team and not Trekker is what you just shared. That trekking as it is a team sport and you kind of support each other through it. I think you've beautifully put across that point. So that brings me to the sixth spirit of trekking. Can you shed light on that?
The sixth is a little bit straightforward. You need to be fit for a trek, especially if you are trekking in a team. Now, I want to tell you, there are many sides to it, okay? A lot of trekkers say that, look, Arjun, you always propagate, everyone must trek. And it doesn't matter whether you're fit or not, you must just go out and trek. So why are you saying be fit for a trek? What I'm saying is, you must be fit appropriately for that trek. Some treks do not require that level of fitness, but some treks do. Especially when you're in a team, you cannot be a burden to the team because you're not prepared yourself. And if you have not prepared sufficiently for the trek, you not only put yourself in danger, you put others also in danger. Because your team slows down, you are supposed to reach the camp at 1 o'clock, now you're reaching at 4 o'clock, it's becoming cloudy and you have encountered rain when you should be in the shelter of the tent. So a lot of consequences are there when you're unfit. Most people think it is a requirement of the organization. It is not. It is your moral and social obligations towards the rest of the team members. That because of me, I must not pull down your trek. So you may say, no, I don't get time to prepare, I don't get whatever it is, but I still want to do. That means there is a clash with reality and your ability. You need to be very mindful of that. If you don't have time to prepare and you know that you have a very busy schedule, then choose a trek which goes along with whatever fitness you have. There are n number of treks that you can do in a country. But the problem is when you don't want to listen to your fitness, you want to do a great magnitude trek and putting others in inconvenience. That is where the problem is. There are treks which can be done with your fitness level. So this is my last point that I had about being fit for a trek, and that's the spirit of trekking. But if you take all the spirits of trekking that I talked about, starting with being up for an adventure, blending in with nature, protecting the environment or the nature that we have with this, and then being self-sufficient, being supportive of others, being fit enough to for that particular trek. You will notice that none of these has got anything to do with Indiahikes or any organization. It's got to do with a certain moral compass that you have, certain value systems that you have, that you bring to trekking. And if you follow these value systems to the trekking, it makes trekking better. It makes you better. And you will find that you will have a very high transformative trek, irrespective of whether you trek with us or you trek with anyone else. I don't want you to take back this lesson from this podcast that I am trying to showcase a very strict way of trekking. These are not strict way of trekking. These are just the right way of trekking. And these are very respectful way of trekking. This way of trekking, following this 6 code of conduct, or this spirits of trekking as we call it, will make you a better trekker. It will make others a better trekker, because you're setting the right example. And you will protect the future of trekking not only for yourself, but for generations to come. Isn't that what you want?
Absolutely. I can think back on all the groups I've gone trekking with. I can actually remember, those handful of trekkers who have adhered to this code. And if I think back very honestly, those are the people I would want to trek again with. I think it's as simple as that. I think it's a lot of food for thought for everybody watching here also, whether they are trekking this way or whether they are trekking mindlessly, like how we were discussing in the first half of this conversation. So I think you've beautifully summed up how you can actually go and trek in future. So thank you so much for joining us today, Arjun.
Thank you, Swati.
So that was our conversation about the spirit of trekking, and to go back to the beginning where we started from, how not to trek mindlessly. For me, frankly, it gave me a lot of food for thought about whether I'm trekking the right way and how I must be trekking in the future. I hope it did the same for you, where you think before you take on your next trek and are mindful about how you are going about it. If you have any thoughts or concerns, please drop in a comment below. We can have our conversation furthered from there. If you have any other thing you would like to write to me personally about, please write to me on tws@indiahikes.com. On our podcast, we are covering a lot of other such topics, so make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it so that you're notified of the next conversation we're having about the trekking world. We'll be back with more soon. Thank you for joining us today.